Well, the little sign says we are live on Facebook. And I got to tell you, I don't even know if that's straight or reverse. But anyway, this is Al Beatty at the Western Idaho Fly Fishing Expo in Boise, Idaho. And tonight, Fly Tying Friday, still coming to you, 6 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. But we're coming live to you from the floor of the expo that we have here going. Anyway, I'll put that back down where it's supposed to be. To say hi to all of you, welcome to the show. I've got a group of guys here with me right now from the Weezer Fly Fishing Club. And if you don't know where that is, take a look at Highway, 84 goes to Weezer?
Yep, 84 and then up 95.
84, just take a look at Highway 84 where it comes across Idaho, and when you get close to the Oregon border, you'll find a little town with a W in front of it. That's Weezer. Anyway, great bunch of people. We've been there a few times to do presentations for them. We'll probably be going back now based on the conversation we're having with them right now. Tonight, I'm going to have to tilt this just a little bit, and you won't have the pleasure of being able to have the let's see, that's, I got to get things set up here a bit. So I know you'll bear with me out there. I don't have a whole technical department like we do when we're normally doing all this. Let me move this a little forward a bit. And there's a fly in the vise. Good. It's about as good as we're going to get it given the situation we got. I can see this couple of distractions. Here is my name tag. I'll put that down here and get it out of the way. Take my other glasses, get them off. Put on the glasses that we need. And for those of you out there in Facebook, I'm going to be tying this fly here tonight. It's a Wonder Wing. Some of you already know about it. For those of you from the Weezer Club, it's another fly that we looked at earlier today and we'll be looking at again this evening. This is a sample of it right here. Now, I've never tried bringing this up close to the camera, but that's what we're looking at right there. That's the fly. We'll set that aside, and I'll get a hook and place it in the vise. And this is going to be the standard Wonder Wing, so we'll be wrapping the hackle around the hook shank rather than around the parachute post. We start about 1/3 back from the hook eye. Wrap part of the way to the bend and stop. We don't want to put our hackle fiber tail on thread covered hook. We want to put it on bare shank. And we'll just kind of get the fibers all squared away here. You can see I'm holding those fibers right up there. I'll grab them with my hand, hold them with the left hand, use the right hand to tear the feather away. That way they'll stay nicely aligned the way we want. Measure it for length, and I want that tail to be about the length of the complete hook. And we'll wrap the thread around, bind the tail to the top of the shank, stopping just as we get to the end of the bend. And as you can see right there, we've got the tail in place. Now, for those of you out there in Zoom land, we've got two large feathers placed opposing each other. And for those of you guys from the Weezer Club right here, we saw those today, but they're the large feathers from the saltwater capes. And we find that they work the best for us.
Yep.
Come on over here, Britt. I want you all to say hi to Brittany. Yeah. Anyway, I was gonna say Brittany Norvise.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty
sorry.
much.
Yeah, it's all messed up. Anyway, she's from Norvise, and they got the booth here. You see her tying all the time. You'll
Oh, yes, he's
probably
talking
be
about
live online here pretty quick soon, won't you?
Yeah, we might do another one.
Oh, good.
If not today, tomorrow.
Yeah,
We need to do a live one tying. So,
there you go. I'm trying that. You know what? I sure miss my studio.
right? I bet.
Oh God, yeah, no kidding. Anyway, for you guys back in Facebook, we're going to take these feathers out of the clothespin, and I'm just going to stroke the fibers back. And we want to stroke the fibers back on a length of feather stem that equals a portion of the hook. We want it to be about 60% of the length of the hook shank. Well, so we're going to get that in our hands, pull it back, take a bodkin, and evenly divide those fibers, top of the stem and bottom of the stem, so that we have a wing that we can make out of the swept back fibers. Now, one of the things, if we try to tie this wing on the hook, I'll advance my thread. We tie the wing on the hook to the proper length. The tightening thread, as it thread torque from the tightening thread, will cause the fibers to twist over each other. So we're going to temporarily use the strength of the stem to hold those swept back fibers in place while we place 3 snug but not tight turns on that, and it keeps those fibers all aligned. Now when I pull them out to length, they stay lined up just the way we want them. See how I get that out there? Now I'm going to pull that up into the pinch of my fingers and hold it there while I tighten up. And why do I do that? Well, let me trim off the waist and I'll explain to you why I pulled that feather wing up and held it in the pinch and then tightened the fibers. What I wanted to do was tighten it up so that when I do that, it pulls the fibers in front of the wing very, very slightly longer than those behind, so that the stem will stand up pretty much straight. I don't know, it doesn't always work out well for me, but I think we're pretty close this time. The show here has been really busy today. One of the best Fridays they've had in quite some time, so we're real pleased about that. I know Gretchen and I have sure been busy. Right now, Gretchen's not here. She's at home taking care of things at home, like feeding the dog, for one thing. Anyway, I'm going to separate the wings, trim off the waist, and don't lay those down. We want to put them in a clothespin for the next fly that we're going to tie.
That's another good idea.
Anyway, we'll do a crisscross between the wings to get them set in the right spot. I got one fiber that's kind of crazy here. I better cut it off. And that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to put some dubbing wax on my thread and just kind of sticky up the thread a little bit with the wax so that I can go ahead and put on some dubbing. Now what I'm going to do is what I showed the fellows from the club a few minutes ago, is we're going to do the LaFontaine style of touch dubbing to make our body. And it's a little different than some of you may have seen. Usually we touch our dubbing to the thread. The sticky wax grabs as much as it can hold. And I got one spot I must have missed with the wax, so I'll just twist on a little piece of dubbing there. All right, now I didn't twist this all up. What I'm going to do is wrap the body, and what happens is the fibers become twisted in the thread as it twists in the wrapping process, and you end up with a dub body with all the fibers attached, as if you really planned for it to happen that way. Now I'm going to take a brown hackle and white brown, because that's what's laying in front of me right now. No other reason than that. Okay, there we go. Wrapping forward to the hook eye, I'm going to throw a half hitch in there real quick, just so I don't lose everything. Notice that I get a crisscross over my feather, and it's pointing towards all of you out there in Facebook land, or you guys across the table from me. And the reason I do that is so that the feather is laying in the direction I'm going to wrap it, and I don't have to have any fibers sticking back like this as I make my first wrap. Makes the fly look a lot cleaner by getting your hackle started in the right direction. We'll just make a couple of turns here, and about 3-4 turns behind, and fairly close to an equal number in front. And we're going to tie it off with 2 turns of thread. Now at this point, I could go ahead and finish it off like many people do and screw up the fly. And here's how you mess up the fly. You say to yourself, boy, those 2 turns of thread will never hold that feather, so I better put on some more thread. And you do, and you put on turn number 3, number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 18, 20, and you've got a lot of turns of thread there holding that feather. You trim it off, then you got to cover it up, and you end up with a good looking fly with a big lopsided head. Well, we're going to show you a better way. We call it dog-legging the stem of the feather. I'm back to my original 2 turns of thread. It's anchored from this direction. I'm pointing right across that feather. I am going to now take and push that feather back by wrapping a thread head and a jam knot in front of it. And then what it does is it dog legs that hackle stem and anchors it from 2 directions. So I'm going to carefully sweep these fibers back along with the wings and wrap the thread head. Now you see how that hackle is kicked back, pointed right back in this direction, in case those of you out there in Facebook land can't see it. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply a whip finish, starting at the back of the head, working my way forward until I reach the head, or the hook eye. That makes it for a good whip finish. I'll trim off the waist. And now here's something that you may not realize, but in tying the feather off this way, you can actually trim the feather extra long, and the stub kicks right back and hides in the wrapped hackle. And it makes a good place for the glue to grab that stub. It makes the fly even more, makes the fly a lot stronger. And as you can tell from the sound around us here, that you can probably are picking up through the microphones in this cell phone, the floor is getting pretty busy. I guess everybody has finished their dinner and they're on their way back in because it's getting pretty crowded. And of course the evening crowd is showing up. We go until 9 o'clock tonight. So anyway, there is just a standard Wonder Wing. Now I'm going to show you 2 more ways to use the Wonder Wing, and one of them is as a parachute, like this fly right here. Let me hold it up so you can take a look. You can see right there, it's a parachute. And we'll talk about why would we want a parachute. Let me move that over there. You see those divided wings? Yeah. We will tie that parachute, pick up our hook. One of the problems that we face with the Wonder Wing is strengthening the very flimsy fibers of the actual feather in the wing so that they're strong enough to support the parachute hackle application. Excuse me. And we'll show you how we accomplish that. By first starting our thread right at the same place we did before, back about 1/3 of the distance from the hook eye, wrapping part of the way to the bend and stopping, getting my fibers ready for the tail. Remember, you pull the fibers out straight, get them all lined up, grab them with the left hand, and use the right hand to tear the feather away from the fibers, not the other way around. Keeps from misaligning the fibers. Not 100%, but almost always. The other way, if you tear the fibers away from the feather, you got about a 40 or 50% chance of misaligning those fibers. Now I've got the tail wrapped and bound into place. I'll trim off the waist, wrap forward to the 1/3 point, and get ready to apply another wing. Just like we did before, we can pick up the pace a little bit because the measurements are the same for the parachute. We just treat the fibers different after they're attached to the hook. So I'll sweep the fibers back, get my bodkin, and make sure I have an even separation top and bottom of the feather. Or not feather, it's two feathers, plural. And I'll bind them to the hook using the strength of the stem to put them in place. Now we're going to stand the wing up and pull them out to length. And that's looking pretty good. Tighten that up. Notice again, I pull that up straight and then tighten it. And that gets the fibers in front of that wing just a little bit longer than those in back, and keeps that stem sitting straight in the wing, in the loop of the wing. Now we're coming up to forming the parachute post. Now I don't know how this is going to work out with the camera setup we have here now. I'm not really sure what you all are seeing out there, but we'll see how it turns out after I get to review it tomorrow and upload it to YouTube. To strengthen this, you need to wrap up the post. And I'm not able to do that because of injuries to my shoulders. So I'm going to wrap up the post by flipping the vise over with the feathers pointing down, and I'll wrap up the post by wrapping down. And I hold the feather tight with the left hand and the bobbin with the right, and start wrapping. And see, if I let go of it too soon, it pops loose. Well, we don't want that to keep happening. So we're going to hold the feather tight and the thread tight until I get to this point. Then I relax the thread and the feather. Bring it around, stop, pause, get tension under both, keep wrapping. Until we get far enough up this post so that we've covered a distance about equal to the width of the eye of the hook. Now I've wrapped the post. I'm going to go from the top of that post straight to the body and anchor it in place. The round and around and around you saw is pouring concrete. The straight up and down is a strand of rebar. Now I'm going to wrap the opposite direction this time, pouring the concrete in the opposite direction until I get to the top of the post, and then I'll put another strand of rebar in there, thus strengthening the concrete we just poured. We're going to do that one more time. And anchor it in place. Now we're going to install 4 more pieces of rebar. And how do we do that? Well, we do that by putting a crisscross between the wings and allowing that to be parallel to the post. So there's 2 in front, 2 in back. That separates the wings for us, and we've got 4 more pieces of rebar. Now I'm just going to set these aside. We'll use them in our last fly. Okay, let me make sure everything's straight. Give it a twist. I've got a hackle that doesn't want to get in line with the tail here. I'll get rid of that with the scissors. There we go, good. And now I'm going to get ready to put on the body. Get the dubbing wax all the way on. Grab the dubbing. And this time I'm going to do just a standard touch noodle dubbing like Gretchen and I always do, rather than like we did last time with the La Fontaine type of application. Okay, we'll twist all those in place. And I'll start wrapping the body. There we go. And I'll use a brown hackle again. Because why? Because I've got it. But one of the things I want to do is I make sure that the strip stem is fairly long. And that's not quite long enough, so let me strip off a few more fibers. That'll get a little bit longer for me there. Now I'm going to tie it on while I dub the front part of the hook. In fact, I dub to the eye and I dub back to the post. And the last turn of thread is behind the post. Now I'm going to wrap up the post one more time, the last 4 of concrete to the top, and then the last piece of rebar is the stem of the feather. A lot of rebar in this concrete, and it'll keep that parachute post in place. Now I'll wrap my hackle, starting at the top of the post, winding to the bottom. The wings will twist a little bit, don't worry about it, we'll fix that. And we'll have one last turn and tie it off to the post, not to the eye. 2 turns. Pull the feather up. 2 turns under the feather. Takes those fibers and keeps them from sticking up in the way. Bring the feather forward and trim. That's looking pretty good. Let me give my wings a twist to get them straightened out. Good. Get my half hitch tool. I'll do a half hitch, followed by a whip finish, 2-turn whip finish, and followed by another 2-turn whip finish, using the same tool for all of them. And we'll trim that off. And there you've got the parachute version. So the last version that we're going to do for tonight before I close is to do the Caddis version. And I don't think those of you on Facebook have seen the Caddis version before. I always made you buy the book. Well, one of the guys from the Weezer Club bought the book tonight, so you get the benefit of his dollars. So we're going to do the Caddis version, and what does it look like? Well, it looks like this. Let me get it into a hackle pliers. And the only difference will be I'll have a different colored wing and a different colored hackle and so forth. But there's the Caddis version. And I'll grab a hook. Let's see, I've got a grizzly hackle here, good. I got a grizzly hackle there, good. All right, now I'm going to make my wing out of that. Okay, well, we're going to get a thread base on this hook, starting back maybe a third of the way from the hook eye, and just covering the last part of the back 2/3 of the hook. All right, it's time for some dubbing and wax. Yeah, we're getting a pretty good application of the dubbing there on the thread. Lay that dubbing down. I think I'll just go ahead and do a LaFontaine application. Which means you don't twist it, you just wrap it. Alright, there we go. Now most of that will stay. In fact, it all stay. I'll just trim that. But what you get is a caddis with a lot of fuzzies all around it. Those fuzzies are kind of nice. Let's get ready to tie on our wing. Okay, I'll tie the wing on here at the front of the fly. And that's the fibers and stem both, because it lays flat along the hook shank, so we can tie the stem to the hook. I'll trim off the waist. Wrap the rest of that down. Get ready to put my hackle in there. Trim off the end so you've got the wing shaped now. I don't know if you can see that or not. Anyway, one of the things I'm noticing about this kind of a presentation for those of you on Facebook is it's not too dissimilar from the guys who are sitting across the table from me. You're not getting to see this very big like you do when we do it in the Zoom studio at home. That's because we got a camera right there on top of the fly. And now you're having to see it across the table like they are. And I'm thinking that's kind of a problem. I don't know, it's we'll have to see. Somebody says the audio is working well, a little buffering. That buffering could be because we're using cell phone signal. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, we just have to apply a hackle. I got a grizzly hackle here. I'll just go ahead and tie it on. Now remember, we tie this on with a crisscross. One over this way. Pull the feather straight towards the camera for you on Facebook, and 2 turns to anchor that so that the feather is in that direction towards you. Now I'll bring the thread forward in front of the feather and reach back and grab the stem. You see how it bends it in place there? And it really anchors it because it turns a 90-degree angle in that stem. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and wrap our hackle. All right, pull back for a nice head. And I'm just going to use a half-hitch tool to do a whip finish this time. A half-hitch first, followed by a 2-turn whip finish, and another. And I'll trim away the thread, trim away the waist feather. And there we've got it. We've done a test drive on doing a live feed out of the show floor using a cell phone signal. How well this come across, I won't know until I get home tonight and do a review of it. But thank you all for joining us and staying with us. And you guys from the Weezer Club, thank you for helping me out tonight here at the show. So all of you there out in live TV land, we'll be back next week with BT Fly Tying Friday. But for now, that's a wrap.